First, the promise.
If you like your health care plan, you'll be able to keep your health care plan. Period.
Then the big if.
We said was you could keep it if it hasn't changed since the law was passed.
And now the admission.
You said after the law was implemented or signed, if you like your plan, you can keep it. Do you not believe, sir, the American people deserve a deeper, more transparent accountability from you as to why you said that over and over?
There's no doubt that the way I put that forward unequivocally ended up not being accurate.
So the president admits he botched it, and now the people have spoken. In poll after poll, the majority say he is not trustworthy. So does that mean the fix he just put forward for people losing their plans can't be trusted either? Hi, everybody. I'm David Asman. Welcome to Forbes on Fox. Let's go in focus with Steve Forbes, Rich Carlgard, Sabrina Schaeffer, Elizabeth McDonald, Rick Unger, and John Tamny. Steve, can we trust any more promises from these folks?
Sadly, David, no. Trying to reinstate these policies now is an administrative and actuarial nightmare. Insurers have to know that this is going to be more than just a few months. It's got to be several years or in the future. And this is just a fix to get through the next election. And it's just going to be a big mess, and it's going to get bigger. This thing is collapsing on its own.
Rick, how do you trust people who've broken so many promises?
Not a good week to be a defender of the White House, is it? Look, I mean, the reality is whether you can trust them or not, that isn't as much the issue as the perception. And right now, Americans are not trusting this administration. In politics, however, things change. Something will happen next, and if they do the right thing and they handle it well, they'll dig out of it. If they don't, he's got a big problem, let's face it.
Well, he sure does. And EMAC, to specifically one promise that he made when apparently he had information that contradicted that promise. In July 2010, there was a report out that 40 to 67% of individual policies would be canceled. This was an IRS report, an ObamaCare report that he had access to way back 3.5 years ago. Right. And since then, he's made many promises that denied that report.
That's right, David. And that report went from also IRS, HHS, Treasury Department, and Labor, so the administration knew it. And now those people are being treated like a rounding error by this administration. They're essentially saying, you know what, we were looking at the 90% who would get improvements in their health insurance. And that also is a fallacy, because their prices are going up too, and people are losing doctors by the score. Millions of people coming home for the holidays now seeing their insurance canceled and losing their doctors. I'll tell you something, credibility is a fragile commodity for any president. He just shot it right out the door. And what is happening now, people are not listening to him and they're not trusting him.
Okay, well, Rich, to EMAC's point, there are people who are losing their doctors. There are people who are losing their insurance. We want to put a on it because Stuart Varney, my colleague over at the Fox Business Network, had on a woman who had lost her insurance policy that she was very happy with. Let's just play sound from that and get your reaction.
So there's a tremendous amount of trust with that insurance company. I know the claims people by name. They've never once denied my treatment. Well, now whatever happens, I'm going to be going to an unknown, an insurance company I haven't dealt with, people I don't know, people I don't have confidence in. And with cancer, you have to make decisions incredibly fast because your life depends upon it.
Rich, we're always hearing the administration lambasting insurance companies. This is a woman who had stage 4 cancer. By the way, she was very happy with her insurance policy, and she lost it because of Obamacare. The more you see the faces of people who suffered because of this, the more I think there's no fix at all.
I don't think there's any fix at all, but I will guarantee you one thing, that between now and the 2014 elections, I think the administration is going to wage a fierce war against the insurance firms and try to blame it on them. Manfully, President Obama did not do that in his press conference on Thursday, but I think that you'll see this in full force behind the scenes. We'll see how it plays out, but it's fundamentally broken. It cannot be fixed. It has to be. We have to start over.
And John Tamny, in order to have somebody fix something, you have to trust them. Even if it's something simple like a broken car, you got to trust the people working on it. What about the level of trust with this administration?
Oh, it's gone. There's no way the electorate is going to allow a president and a party who wrote such an incompetent law to essentially get up to the plate and do this once again. But I think there's reason to be very optimistic here. If you support limited government, and a lot of us do, you must rejoice that President Obama was reelected, because his administration is the single best advertisement about the horrors of big government that we've had in a long time, and it's going to have legs going into the future. I'm loving this.
But Sabrina, on the other hand, there are Republicans who say we can work with the president to fix this. Is that possible?
I don't think it's possible, and I think actually I really agree with John. I think one of the best things that can happen from this entire debacle is to have sort of a seismic shift in the way that people conceive of government and the way they conceive of insurance and the role the government should play in the healthcare market. Because let's be honest, there's a terrible misconception out there that we actually had a market in place in healthcare before Obamacare took effect. The fact is that government has been increasingly involved in the healthcare market for over 40 years. This is what we got, and now we've tried to add on more government, which meant that all of the problems just doubled down and got worse.
All right,
so
well,
I think that John is right. This is a time to pull back, and I think Americans see that.
Okay, Rick Unger, because you're honest enough to admit the mistakes of Obamacare, even though you've been fully supportive of it up until now. Is there any fix? Is there any fix, since you're still supportive of it, that you think would work? And what is it?
Yeah, and I should say, I remain very supportive to the law itself. Obviously, I'm not supportive of how it's rolled out. It's been badly botched, and we worry about that because I will tell you, if they do get things working on the website by the end of this month, as they've promised, this could still end up turning out okay.
But specifically, what kind of fix would you recommend,
I think fixing the website plays a big part. Look, the one number that a lot of us have forgotten, even though the enrollments were low, over 1 million people have registered and signed up. They just haven't bought the policy yet.
You know,
that's a big number.
They've been 3 years at building the website. People are running away from it because they're afraid of the security lapses and their privacy being violated and their financial information being shared across the government and with states. That is true. It is absolutely true. You listen to any hearing, and that is a serious issue. Here's how you fix it. You do no, it's from Democrats too. You do hospital catastrophic insurance. You have HSAs. You have the cash movement, paying doctors directly. You also have true interstate competition insurance.
Well, Steve, what about the complaint against Republicans that they have no way to fix this? And even if you get rid of Obamacare entirely, what is the Republican plan?
The part of the Republican caucus in the House, David, does have a act out there that has alternatives, including, as Elizabeth referred to, real national competition for health insurance, equalized tax treatment, and other fundamental reforms that'll get patient control back again and get effective safety nets through funds that'll take care of people who have pre-existing conditions.
Well,
we
Sabrina,
do it with food. Why can't we do it with health care?
You were nodding as Steve was speaking, and you were saying that this is an opportunity for Republicans. But again, do you think their message has gotten out clearly enough that they would propose something specific that would be better than what we now have?
Yeah, well, there's a tremendous opportunity here for Republicans. I know there's going to definitely be a part of the GOP that's just going to want to sit back and watch this whole thing implode. But I think that would be a foolish waste of political capital and a waste of an opportunity for the American people. The fact is there are very discrete things that we can do to reform the tax code, to reform the insurance regulatory market. And I think that this is a chance to show some leadership and to just move forward with those things. This is going to fall by the wayside of its own weight. You know, let's move forward with something very positive for the American people.
Rich, there's one thing. You're in Silicon Valley, and there's one point. I know we had $1 billion rollout of this software plan for the internet that failed. We had thousands of workers. It took them 3.5 years. I interviewed 3 guys in Silicon Valley, 3 20-year-old programmers who came out with a system that did part of what Obamacare was supposed to do on the web, much better than what they've done. And they've had 2 or 3 weeks to run that out, and they spent a couple of $100 on it.
Yeah, I mean, the irony is, and in history books will be written about this, how President Obama, who ran the most technologically sophisticated presidential campaigns in 2008 and 2012, managed to botch this on such an epic scale. But it really does show you the infrastructural problems of doing things at a federal bureaucratic level.
Interestingly enough, in the 08 debate with Hillary Clinton, he did say essentially, he attacked the insurance mandate. He said nobody should be forced to buy insurance.
And when you see women who have lost their insurance, or people who've lost their insurance, like the woman we showed earlier, really understand how much this thing needs to be fixed or changed. We'll still add, this healthcare mess could end up saving Americans money. Now, that is a flip side. Don't miss it on Cashing In at the bottom of the hour. But up next right here, more retailers will be open on Turkey Day, and now unions are telling. Well, after billions of dollars in subsidies, a new report out saying that biofuel ethanol is doing more harm to the environment than it's helping the environment. From the pollution caused by plowing up millions of acres to plant the corn to make it, to tainted water supplies from the extra fertilizer needed to grow it. So, Steve, you say there's another case of the green agenda backfiring.
Yes, David, when you don't rely on market forces, i.e. free people making free choices, this is what you get. And you look at Germany and Denmark, for example, their electricity rates are 3 times our own, which is why manufacturers and chemical companies are coming back to this country. And again, it's a political payoff. When you see green, you should see red, red in anger, and red ink.
And Rick, we did this segment just for you because this is a bipartisan issue. There are almost as many Republicans who were in favor of these ethanol supports and Democrats.
Yep. You did this just for me. I am touched. I truly am. Look, I mean, you got to be careful. I have never been a big fan of ethanol, and I don't think it's news that there are problems with it. Also, how it affects food prices. But there's no upside in lumping it in with all renewable fuels. I understand that you guys have problems with government subsidies for these things, different conversation. But who can be against renewable fuels? It's just a good thing. You may not like how we're paying for it, but it's you just can't mix
Well,
ethanol
you ask who. I think Mike Ozanian is one who is against these renewable.
That?
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, and you know what? For me, it's even personal. This has basically been a large kickback to farmers, David, which is why Steve will never win Iowa. But I'll tell you this, for me, it's even more personal. This stuff is terrible for engines. It destroyed my snowblower engine. It destroyed my lawnmower engine. I mean, you know, how am I supposed to do all my yard work?
It is personal for you. Sabrina, by the way, nothing against farmers, and usually the farmers that get the most supports are these big corporate farms, not the small guys, right?
The big industrial farms, and it's no surprise. You know how much? It takes 450 pounds of corn in order to make enough ethanol to fill one single SUV tank of gas. I mean, that's hardly efficient. And to Mike's point, it is really highly corrosive. It has to be transported by wheel or rail, not through the pipelines, which is not so environmentally friendly and very cost inefficient.
So, Bill, is this just proof that this green agenda, and again, Republicans were a part of it, but the Obama administration has doubled or tripled it doesn't work?
I think we're agreed, all of us, that corn ethanol is a total scam on all fronts. But most green energy projects have only one really big flaw. An example, that $1 billion solar farm in California is an economic disaster. Biodiesel, if it ever caught on, would destroy what's left of the rainforest. And, of course, windmills are an eyesore.
But the point... Go ahead, Sabrina. Go ahead.
Well, there's always some unintended consequences, right? Look about the fuel efficiency standards. As a result of these, Ford made cars with a lighter aluminum, made the cars lighter, but also less safe. So I think so often we're like, great, green energy, but then there's the serious unintended consequences.
And Steve, Australia, I know it's kind of a strange thing to bring in right now, but Australia just had a huge change in government. They went from one government that supported all these carbon fuel taxes and everything that was supposed to help the environment, didn't really help things that much in Australia, and they just threw the guys out, and there was a huge political change as a result. Could the same thing happen here?
It's going to be part of it, David. By the way, I like Australia because I have a son-in-law from Australia, and so far
we all like Australia. Well. What's not to like about Australia?
And he's a doctor and gives me free advice right now.
And they use a lot of carbon fuels on the Barbie, by the way, just to emphasize it.
It's clean fuel, we already have it. It's called natural gas, which, no surprise, the Greens are opposed to.
Well, what about that, Rick? I mean, shouldn't the Greens be supporting wholeheartedly natural gas as the answer here?
Well, I think it is an answer. I have to say I have more questions than answers. I want to know if I can get a solar-powered mower, will Mike come over and cut my grass? And I also want to know if Steve gives his son-in-law autographed books.
By the way, I think judging from the laughter of Mike Ozanian, he's not going to be cutting your grass anytime soon. No. That's got to be the end. Coming up, before you go out shopping this holiday season, stock up on the names that'll help pay for all of those holiday gifts. The names are coming next.